Hi, I'm Tom Hendricks. I'm number 165 for the Good of Zeta Eta and Sigma Chi. I was going to TCU back in 1966, and then I met James Adderholt, the Frog, who's now in the Chapter Eternal, Eddie Ray Stanley, and Rob Holt and Rob Whitener, just a myriad of wonderful people. And I transferred from TCU to East Texas State. And it was a November pledge, a fall pledge. So that meant you had to pledge for almost a year and a half. And I got to be the president of the pledge class. And greatest experience of my life. It was so great. I got my brother, who was working on his master's degree, to come to East Texas State, and he pledged, and it was rough on a guy his age, but he became a Sigma Chi. And guys, it's the greatest thing ever happened. I'm 67 years old. I keep showing up. I'm like a bad penny. But on the lighter side, I finally found out what a rally was, and it wasn't a car rally. Now, don't you be doing this now, because you might get in trouble. But I never knew I could do that many push-ups and sit-ups and other various type things. So, and that's as far as I can go on that end of it. But to anybody that's thinking about going Sigma Chi, and for you guys that have been Sigma Chi's and are Sigma Chi's, it's the greatest experience of my life. Thanks.
My name's Frank Barnett. I'm number 154 in Zeta Eta Sigma Chi. I came from a small town. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you. If I'd have known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself when I was you young guys' age. Number two, came from a small town. And didn't pledge Sigma Chi till after I'd been in college a couple of years, and I met a few of the guys and liked them. And I kind of grew up cowboyish, and so I wasn't a slick dresser or anything, but they didn't seem to mind. And I liked that about them. And I didn't know a whole lot, but I learned a lot from Sigma Chi, from being around people that are different than I am. And a lot of those traits that I learned at Sigma Chi, I took on to help me in the military and help me in business and help me just get along with people. Because I think being in a fraternity is like a family, and we have to learn that we're not all alike, and we don't all like the same things, and we don't all do the same things, but we have to appreciate each other for the qualities they bring to the family, and that's what makes a family better, is diversity. So I was just impressed with Sigma Chi from the beginning. I was one of those, I guess you'd call gung-ho pledges. I wanted to do everything I could, because I'd never been in anything in my life that I was a member of other than church. And it was just important to me that I did my very best to represent the fraternity in the best way I could. Not saying that I always did that, because there were some parties I probably wasn't the best representative, but it was a fun party anyway. But anyway, I do think of it as family, and as the years have gone on, just like a family, a lot of us have stuck together and stayed in touch all through our lives. And like Bob had said earlier, we're in our 60s now, and I feel like I'm just as close to them today, if not closer, than I was when I was at East Texas. A lot of great guys, a lot of good teachers, and so when you're in the fraternity, there's always good times, but kind of try to learn some of the things that other people are teaching you. And sometimes those things don't come, they're not just stand out, they're small things that we learn as we go along in life, and then later in life we'll go, yeah, I kind of remember that. I remember that from the fraternity. I'm gonna use that skill to help me get along with somebody, or to fix a problem that maybe needs fixing. I would rate Sigma Chi up there with one of the best things that I learned in life, going through life, is Sigma Chi, my dad, Sigma Chi, the military, and how to, and God, of course, and how to live our lives and how to live by the principles that Sigma Chi had, to be honest and be trustworthy. And when we tell people something, we stick with it. We don't not do what we say we're going to do. And I think that's important in today's world, because it's easy to just say, well, I forgot, or whatever. Well, you don't forget with a brother. You remember, and you make sure that you get the job done that you told them that you would get done. And I just have appreciated all the good things that have come my way because of Sigma Chi. I got to go to a workshop in Kansas, had my tire stolen off my car while we were there, but we all had a good time, made a trip to Mexico, got a little education down there, met George Peterman along the way, and I'm still trying to figure out where George fits into the system, but I'm sure he does, because I did learn quite a bit from him. And there's a lot of people that I've learned a lot from in the fraternity. I just appreciate all of them and each one of them as an individual, and I thank them for accepting me as just a guy I didn't have a whole lot to offer, but they saw something in me maybe that I didn't see in myself at that particular time in my life. I appreciate the guys that have gone before us, like Crabtree and some of the others, and some that have problems that were really, I think of Mark Ward, who was our consul at one time, and Mark's had an accident early in his life that shortened his career as becoming as an attorney. And you know, we don't know what the next day holds for us, and so I just say enjoy life, make good friends, have brothers, and do what you say you're going to do.
My name is Frank Martin, and I've been a Sigma Chi since October the 15th of 1966. And I guess the first story I'll tell would be about George Rowland and I. We called him Baby George. And Baby George and I went all the way through junior high, high school, and college together. And he was one of the people that encouraged me to become a Sigma Chi, because he was initiated and got into Sigma Chi about a semester before I did. And we enjoyed one another so much, you know, in junior high and high school, that it was really a blessing to me to be with him and a bunch of other people. We were all from Woodrow Wilson High School in Dallas. And for those of you who don't know who Woodrow Wilson High School is, it's the only high school in the nation that has 2 Heisman Trophy winners. But we're very proud of our high school endeavors that we did. And Baby George was initiated in Sigma Chi a semester before I was, and he was my Magister. And it was his first year as Magister, and he made an excellent Magister. I knew quite a bit about Sigma Chi by the time I got through with his course, and it was harder than any of the other courses that I'd taken in school, but I really learned a lot. Of course, I've forgotten a lot too. And they wanted me to tell the story about the KAs. There was, when I was a pledge, which would be the spring of 1966, the KAs and a lot of the other fraternities and some of the sororities would meet every once in a while and stay in their own groups at the Dairy Queen, and that was the hot place in in Commerce if you went to the Dairy Queen. So each fraternity and sorority, they had their different logos. Like we had our White Cross there, and the different logos were all around the Dairy Queen there. Well, one of the KAs decided, or a group of them decided, they would snag our White Cross. So they did, and we tried to get it back from them, but they wouldn't let us have it back. And my girlfriend at the time was A.D. Pye, and her name was Anita, and so she was running for class treasurer, I believe. So she asked me to take a bunch of circulars around and posters and things and pin them up on bulletin boards and all throughout the different fraternities around there to vote for her for the treasury. And so I said, well, heck, that'll give me a good opportunity. I'll go over there and I'll see if I can find a White Cross at the KA house. So anyhow, I went in and pretended to do, put these posters on the different places around there. I introduced myself, told them who I was. I didn't tell them I was a Sigma Chi pledge, but I did have my pledge pin on. And I don't think they noticed that. So I looked all over for a white cross and I couldn't find it. So I said, well, heck, there is the KA flag, which was just laying on a table. They had a flagpole outside, and the pledges every morning would put the flag up, and every evening they would put it down. Well, this was after dark. So I decided, I said, well, if they got a white cross, I'm going to get their flag. So I snagged their flag and took it back to the actives or whatever. And I think that pretty much cemented me getting to become a Sigma Chi, because they all seemed to like it. They enjoyed very much having that, and it certainly gave them a negotiating way to negotiate with them to try to get our white cross back. And I don't know whatever happened to the white cross. I gave it to my big brother, Butch Thomas, and he had it for a while, and then after that, I don't know what happened to it. So if anybody out there knows where their flag is, let me know. We ought to put it in our new house. But I enjoyed being a Sigma Chi all these years. I'm active in the Dallas Alumni Association, and we have a big crowd every the second Tuesday of every month. In our Alumni Association, I'm fortunate to serve on the executive committee, and we're one of the best in the nation, if not the best. And we're very proud of that. Anyhow, I'm just proud to be a Sigma Chi.
My name is Fred Landry. I was in the first pledge class that Alpha Chi Alpha ever had in 1961, the fall of 1961. So I was there from close to the beginning. One of the things I think is interesting was our initiation dues. It was $15, but it had to be earned by personal servitude, with no member being able to pay you more than a nickel, less than a nickel, or more than a quarter for any chore. That was a tough thing to earn. But as the fraternity grew and we started looking, and we interviewed several national organizations, it became apparent that Sigma Chi was the place we wanted to go. As a brother from a charter member of Sigma Chi, I work at a university. I know several people that are alums of other fraternities, and there's just not anybody else that does what we do at Zeta Eta. This was a brotherhood that seemed to stick over the years and has held, and I'm hoping that the younger brothers will be able to do the same thing. But it's been been very fortunate. It has been a good ride. It's great to come back once a year and see these people. We've all had interesting careers, different careers. That was one of the strong things about our fraternity too. We were not in one area on campus. We were a broad-based fraternity with student representatives and members that were in every major possible on that campus. And that was one of our strengths. And that may have been our strongest strength. We weren't all agriculture, like there was one fraternity became all agriculture. We didn't have an Old South week like somebody else did. But we were a fraternity that I think really were brotherhood, the Zeta Eta part, and probably because we were Alpha Chi Alphas and we were so picked on when we first started. That may be why we ended up being a strong union, a brotherhood. And I think today, what I understand, the chapter is still that way. But I think it's amazing for the young people to have an opportunity to come back. And I think you're going to, if I'm speaking to young members, for you to understand that this is something you're going to look forward to in the future. You may not think about it now, but you will in the future. Is there anything else?
You want to speak on any chapter you're trying, brother?
Two, Ken Huggins, who I was really close to. We did everything together. He was in the second pledge class along with Frank, who's sitting over there. he was a good brother. The other one was Fred Fanning. Fred Fanning there were about 8 or 9 members of the fraternity that were Catholic. And we had several other brothers that were Presbyterians and other religions. And Fred was trying to get a group of us to get together for a church service. And the Baptists would not go to the Catholic church, and the Catholics would not go to the Baptist church. So Fred came to myself and Mike Bearden, who's also in the chapter Eternal, and he said, we were both Catholics, he said, you know, Episcopalians are almost like Catholic, would y'all come to the Episcopal church? And Mike's told him, he said, yeah, we'll come there. We don't have a problem. We're just not going to the Baptist church. So anyway, we eventually had a church service at the Episcopal church. But that was the 3 brothers. All 3 of them played a good, strong portion in our lives in different ways. And Freddie was probably the youngest, one of the youngest members that was ever a consul. I mean, he was quite a bit younger than the rest of us. And he was just somebody from the very beginning that we all liked and really admired.
So do you have any advice for any of the younger brothers, or for the good of Zeta and Sigma Chi?
I think for the good of Zeta and Sigma Chi, I think one of the strengths that you can build is lasting relationships with your brothers. Not looking, sometimes it's easy to lose track of each other, but I think if it's possible, try to keep as close as you can to as many of your brothers as you can. And I think when you get to be my age, which is 70, you'll appreciate that.
Hello, I'm Herb Cross, better known as Herbie. I was initiated number 194. I pledged in the spring of 1968 and was luckily made my grades in the summer so I could get initiated in the fall of 1968. I was blessed by knowing Sigma Chi because I was a legacy, and let me tell you what a blessing that was. So I knew about Sigma Chi from the time I was in junior high. I particularly remember being awakened one summer morning as a group of guys named Chester and Rob and my brother, and I'm really not sure who else was with them, but they woke me up and they were on their way to what they called a workshop, and they were terribly excited. And they stayed, but my mom and dad had to talk to them, and they talked to them quite a bit for quite a long while. And when they left, I remember my mom saying, "Daddy, they must be a pretty good group of boys because look, they wear white crosses." So I knew that was pretty good from the word go. During the next few years, I got to go up to Commerce and got to visit, got to go and see my brother's apartment where they lived up there, and my goodness, they had a live alligator. So one of them drove a Corvette. I said, this is where I have got to go. So went to Commerce. There was no doubt where I was going to college. My whole family had gone to college at Commerce. When I got there, all of a sudden, when I went through Rush, I was Jack's little brother, and made me very proud. But after a little while, it was always Jack's little brother. So, guys, when you get in fraternities like that, there's going to be some humorous times, and one of the humorous times that we had was pretty much everybody had nicknames. There was from early nicknames of Filthy and Howdy, and just there was DJ, and we had Hassan, and we had Bebopper, and we had Slick Willie, and we had all these Pickle. We had all these group of names. Well, this Sam Shirawi decided that I needed a nickname. So finally one day he said, from now on you're going to be known as Blevitz. And I said, Blevitz? And he said, yes, from now on you're going to be known as Blevitz. And I said, what is Blevitz? And he said, a Blevitz is 2 pounds of manure in a 1 pound bag. So from then on, I was known as Blevitz, and only in my inner circle of friends am I called Blevitz, and it's wonderful. It is wonderful. On the serious side of that, guys, Sigma Chi is a lifelong experience. I can tell you that for sure. I was blessed to become a dentist later on, and one of the toughest, meanest instructors that I had in dental school was a guy named Dr. Leon Lewis. And everybody was afraid of Dr. Lewis, and he was really, really, really hard. And I don't know why, but one week I wore my Sigma Chi ring, and I got a call to say, Dr. Lewis wants to see you in his office. So I went to his office and went in, just scared to death, you know, and he sit down, and he said, stand up. And I stood up, and he went to shake my hand, and he gave me the grip. And so he said, I just want to tell you, I saw your ring. From now on with you, you're not only my student, but you're my brother, and everything is going to be okay. So that was a blessing. Guys, I proudly, in my dental office, I display my Sigma Chi, I guess what you call my whatever the name it says, has my name on it and says that I'm a Sigma Chi, and it hangs on my wall. Okay, and from time to time, guys, I get young men that come through that are salesmen to me, and I've had a half a dozen over the last 40 years that have come through, have seen, go, oh, I see you're a Sigma Chi, and it just makes a difference, guys. So if you're thinking about joining a fraternity, this would be a good one. The principles that it is based upon are extremely high, and you'll be very proud. So I can encourage you guys, join us. I think they'll make you proud to be a Sig.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Herbie.
Did you want to speak to any chapter Drone Brothers before?
Yeah, I would like, real quickly, Bill Crabtree. We just buried Bill last year. See, Bill's in between me and my brother. When I got to Commerce, Bill took care of me. He took care of me and Dennis Joe Stanley. Dennis Joe was also a legacy, and Dennis Joe was my roommate in college and is my one of my very best friends. And he's struggling with cancer right now, and he can't be here this weekend, so I'm speaking for him, and he'll tell you the truth about Crabtree. Bill took us when we were in a little bit of trouble, put us together because he knew our brothers were charter members and brothers together, and put us together, put us at G4, and we got a corner room as pledges at G4, and I mean, to get a corner room was something. And Crabtree got us a corner room at G4 and put Dennis and I together. Bill got me a job that summer when I didn't make my grades in the spring, and he and Dr. Crabtree gave me a job as the lifeguard at the swimming pool, and I was able to make my grades that summer. And then Bill just stayed good friends with me. You see, Bill ended up in my wedding, took my wife and I to Dallas. My car was just horrible. You Sigma Chi's were horrible about trashing cars when you got married. The next morning, see, Crabtree woke Jan and I up. My car was clean as could be, drove us to the airport. It later on got me a job in Commerce teaching with he and Chester at Grand Prairie High School because I didn't have a job. I needed a job and was married. He basically lived with Jan and I for a whole year. What a wonderful, wonderful guy. And I can still remember burying him this summer and the white roses that were on his casket. Just says that, to me, is that Sigma Chi was also a big part of Bill's life all the way through to the end. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much.
Sigma Chi has meant a lot of things to me, basically in training me for dealing with people and human relations. I have been a banker for 44 years and have gleaned a lot of information by just growing up and being a Sigma Chi and knowing how to deal with all types and finding out how to deal with all types of people. I've always loved Sigma Chi and all it's meant to me because my dad and my family are all fraternity oriented. My dad was a KA and all my cousins were KAs, and Sigma Chi, I went astray. And it's been a wonderful experience for me because I wouldn't do anything else. But Sigma Chi and Commerce not only trained me in business, but I met my wife there, who was a sweetheart in 1966. It's been a thing that I've enjoyed being back at every reunion since we were initiated, and I can't tell anyone how much it means that the friends that you'll meet in undergraduate school will mean to you in your life and in your business career.
Well, I'm Jack Cross, and I'm one of the original charter members. I was an Alpha Chi. We were all Alpha Chi Alphas before we became Sigma Chi's. I was a transfer student to East Texas from Sam Houston State, where I was a very unaccomplished baseball player. There's not a baseball program at East Texas, so I came up because there was an opportunity for a scholarship through the Air Force ROTC program. I had found out about it through my girlfriend, who is now my wife of some 47 years. And I transferred to East Texas, and I got there, knew a few people from my hometown, not very many. But my sister had been an Alpha Phi at East Texas a couple of years before, and she was good friends with a fellow named Lupe Martinez. And Lupe Martinez was an Alpha Chi Alpha, and as I moved into the old West Halls, I moved in with three crazy guys named Chester McCrary, Benny Longacre, and Donnie Hester. We all four pledged Alpha Chi Alpha and went through that, and then, of course, as Brother Whitener pointed out a while ago, how we all then became Sigma Chi's. It was a marvelous process. I had known several Sigma Chi's in my life at Sam Houston State, boys that I grew up with, the Garrison brothers, and so forth, and the Marshall brothers, who were Sigma Chi's at the University of Oklahoma, where I'm a chapter advisor now. But Zeta Eta is special. It always will be special. The group of men that are Zeta Etas get together, do more, keep more in touch than any group of Sigma Chi's I know, and I know quite a few.
That's awesome. Did you touch on any chapter Eternal Brothers?
Yes. Gary Studdard, who was in the chapter Eternal, was my roommate for 2.5 years. I was commissioned the year before he was in the Air Force. He and Clark Murray and I can't remember who else, other guys were, David Wright were in the class behind me. We all went to flight school. We all learned to fly over at Bonham, Texas, and had that in common. Clark went to heavy aircraft. The rest of us flew fighters. I had 779 days in Southeast Asia before it was all said and done with. Gary had a similar number of days in missions in that part of the world. Gary and I were very close and remained close through our Air Force days. We visited with each other during various overseas assignments. We never flew together. We're never in the same squadron, but we remained very close. Gary passed away about 3 years ago. I'm still in contact with his wife in California, and she has pledged to be with us in November for our anniversary celebration.
That's awesome. All right, for the good of Zeta.
For the good of Zeta Eta and Sigma Chi, you meet a lot of people as you go through life, and in the Air Force I met an extraordinary number of Sigma Chi's. One I met at the very first workshop that I went to with Rob and a couple of other guys, and Dr. James Byrd was with us that year, and it was at Ball State, Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. And I met a fellow there named Dave Mott, M-O-T-T, lives in Colorado Springs now. He was a Sigma Chi from South Dakota State. The following year we met at flight school in Big Spring, Texas, and learned to fly jets at the same time. I soloed the day before he did. And we became lifelong friends. Dave was shot down 1972 up by the DMZ in the southern part of Vietnam, and we missed him greatly. Another fellow who is not a Sigma Chi that I played basketball in high school with is a guy named Bill Gant. He's retired now and lives in Washington, D.C., and it turns out that my good basketball buddy and my good Sigma Chi buddy were roommates in the Hanoi Hilton. Both great big guys. The Vietnamese named them 3 meter and 3 meter 1. And Dave got off the airplane at Clark Air Force Base when the prisoners were released. He was the 16th man off the airplane. I met him shortly thereafter in Texas and rekindled our lifelong friendship. Sigma Chi's together for a long, long time.
My name is J. Frank Knight. The J doesn't stand for anything. All I got was J. Frank and then my last name, Knight. And I was in the second Alpha Chi Alpha pledge class in the spring of 1962. And Fred mentioned about the initiation, how we had to work and how we had to earn money to pay our $15 initiation fee. And did you know he was ahead of me a little bit, and that he never did pay me for what I did. I washed his dishes and I polished his shoes, but he never paid me. And so I had to work extra hard to make up that money to be able to be initiated. And for the good of Zeta, Eta, and Sigma Chi, I would like to recommend to the very younger people who are 18 or 19 who are coming into the chapter that, first of all, if you're struggling with your grades, it might be because you're just 18 or 19 years old. A lot of young people have difficulty studying and learning and focusing at that age. But if you'll just hang on, or even if you have to drop out a semester, if you'll come back, you'll find that your studies are, and you can make your grades so much easier if you're another year older. And I just had that experience with my son Sam, who is also a Sigma Chi and a brother at the UTA campus. When he started college, he had trouble. He was 18 years old and he wanted to study engineering. And he had to study calculus and chemistry and physics and a lot of very difficult subjects. And I told him to just keep going on, and if you have to drop the course, do, because next semester it'll be easier. And as he went through his classes, he struggled a lot at first, but then as he got older, things got a little bit easier and a little bit easier, and he was able to make his grades, and he was finally able to graduate in December of 2012 as a civil engineer. And I'm really proud of him for that. And I would be proud of any young man who, if you're struggling with your making your grades, just stick with it and remember that next semester you'll be a little more mature and it'll come a little more easier. Also, for the young brothers, I would like to recommend that you be very careful about what you say and about what you do, and not damage the relationship you have with your brothers. At this particular age, 19 to 25, you remember everything. The brightest memories I have are those that I acquired during those years. So be careful not to put any memories in your brothers' minds that 50 years later they will recall. Because by then it's all under the water and it's all gone, but the memories last. Now, in speaking about a brother who has entered the chapter eternal, I want to talk about my little brother, Fred Fanning. I know a lot of people have talked about him. Fred was an incredible personality. He was an athlete. He was on the tennis team. He was really a nice-looking guy. But his greatest asset was his charisma. Everybody liked Fred. And I'm going to tell a little story about Fred. One day, I was walking up the sidewalk on campus, and about 30 yards ahead of me, going in the same direction, was Fred. And I watched him as he walked along. And other people were coming down the sidewalk, going against, we were passing each other. And as each person passed Fred, he called them by name and said hello and spoke to them and had a smile on his face. and everybody knew his name because he knew their name. It was amazing. People who were total strangers to me, he knew their name, and they knew his name. And there was this one fella who was passing by, and he actually stopped Fred on the sidewalk and shook his hand and thanked him for doing something that Fred had done for him. And then as he walked on a little bit further and I was following along behind, a real pretty girl came walking down the sidewalk. I can't remember her name, but she was a real college beauty. And she smiled when she saw Fred, and Fred smiled back at her, and he spoke to her, and she just lit up like a Christmas tree when he spoke to her. And as they passed, I noticed that as they passed, she turned around and looked back at him. And she was coming on down the sidewalk to me, and I was wondering if she was going to turn back, if I spoke to her, if she was going to turn back and speak to me. And she walked on by, and I spoke to her, and she spoke to me, and we passed, and I looked back to see if she was looking back, but she wasn't. So that's what I would like for you to remember about Fred Fanning, was that he had a lot of charm and a lot of charisma. And I don't want his name ever to be forgotten. He was my little brother. So I bought him a brick. I bought him a brick, and his name will be on our fireplace forever.
Thank you, Frank.
One more thing. You said your son is a Sigma Chi.
Yes.
Did you put the badge on him?
I did, and that was
Talk
a,
about
yeah, I wanted to mention that my son is a Sigma Chi from the UTA campus, and he's graduated now. And one of the highlights of my life was when I was able to pin the white cross on my son. And there was actually a couple of tears in his eyes and a couple of tears in my eyes when I did it. And also, Sigma Chi has been a wonderful thing for me. Can you imagine, after 50 years, I can stand and have and talk to my friends from 50 years ago and have dinner with them. And don't ever forget that Sigma Chi is not just another fraternity. It is a lifetime experience.
Well, my name is John Fortenberry, and I'm from a little town called Valley View, which is north of here. I went to East Texas in about 1962, 61 area, and met up with a group of guys that had primarily been to other colleges and experienced other campus activities. And back then, East Texas was kind of a small college. And so one of the things that we did is 4 or 5 of us that initially got together and decided that we needed to put a social club in East Texas. And that developed into what is now Sigma Chi. The guys were just tremendous. The camaraderie was great. Everybody was striving for a common goal, and I think we all learned a lot during that process. But the efforts paid off, and of course, we became one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fraternity on East Texas Commerce. And then later on, that became Sigma Chi. So we were proud of the startup of Alpha Chi Alpha. And you can see what it's brought us to at this point.
Okay. You have any brothers, chapter eternal, that you want to speak on? Talk about? Maybe tell a story about?
Well, I've got a lot of them that I could tell some stories about. I was going to make, I was asked to make a speech tonight at dinner, and I started out with 33 pages. And I'm down to 1.5, so I had to edit quite a bit. But there's just a lot of good thoughts that go back to those days. From Tony, for an example, was with us at the start. Lloyd Pate was with us at the start, and there were a lot of guys from the Commerce area that were with us that I haven't seen tonight or today, but. They were just a good group of kids, and well, we were kids at that time, And particularly at Commerce, I think one of the insights to that whole organization was the fact that we could get, we got people in every different academic area. We were able to place people on every student government post that was available on campus. And at the, I guess the turn when Alpha Chi Alpha became Sigma Chi, we pretty well dominated the campus at Commerce, and of course, hopefully, still do. But.
All right. Little advice or for the good of Zeta and Sigma Chi?
Sigma Chi has been good to me for several different reasons. Number one, as an Alpha Chi Alpha, I left and went into the service and came back to be initiated in the first bunch that was initiated there on campus. After that, I was able to meet other Sigma Chi in the service and later on in the job market that helped me personally quite a bit. Number one, you had similar goals and similar thoughts and similar backgrounds, and it was easier to mingle with those people. And of course, most of them were college graduates and in business of some sort, which led to opened avenues around. If I had something to say to a young person now, whatever fraternity you go into one. Because you're going to learn a lot of things, you're going to learn a lot of organizational skills, you're going to learn a lot about people, you're going to learn about politics on campus, and you're fortunate enough you might learn a little something about the girls. So anyway, it's a good life experience for anybody, and of course I'd recommend Sigma Chi.
My name is John Patterson. I was initiated in Sigma Chi as a charter member of Zeta Eta chapter in November of 1963. Sigma Chi has been of great importance to me throughout my life. The friends I made in Sigma Chi are my friends today, almost 50 years later. We've done many things together. We've gone to workshops, we've skied together, partied together. We're involved with the Dallas Alumni Chapter. We have a meeting the second Tuesday of each month, and there's a big presence of Zeta Eta members at that meeting, mostly in the era that I went to school. We could use a lot of younger members in there because we're getting a little older. And I have two brothers that were also initiated into Sigma Chi at East Texas. One of my brothers is with me here today. The other one couldn't make it. And like I said, Sigma Chi has been very important to me, and you will make friends through the chapter that will be your friends as long as you live. There's several brothers we've lost in the last few years that were really close to us, starting with Eddie Munson, George Rowland, Ken Huggins, and the most recent is Bill Crabtree, and several others that were in Alpha Chi Alpha that are no longer with us, Joe Killior, Benny Longacre, and Sigma Chi will mean a lot to you in your life if you get out of it what you put into it.
I'm John Walker. Was initiated in the spring of 1979 into Zeta Eta chapter at East Texas State University. I was a commerce kid, went to school, graduated in 78, came out to the university in 78, and didn't really understand the Greek system. I watched the guys that year because if you'll recall, 1978 was the 15th anniversary of the chapter, and I watched the goings-ons with Derby Days and the 15th, and I thought, I need to be a part of this. So I pledged that following spring, and it's a move I've never regretted since then. Got to know a lot of people, and the brotherhood and the ritual are the two things that really impress you the most about Sigma Chi. 30-something years later, and we're still involved. John Wayne said it, men join fraternities, leaders of men join Sigma Chi. He couldn't be more correct.
I've been a Sigma Chi for 43 years. 43 years ago I was initiated, and I can honestly say it changed my life. I joined Sigma Chi, I pledged Sigma Chi because I wanted to play sports and meet good-looking girls. Both those things happened, but little did I realize the bonds of brotherhood that I would experience, and it's been everlasting. I can truly say that from my perspective, I'm a better man because I'm a Sigma Chi, and my Sigma Chi experience is truly a lifelong experience. I'd like to pay a tribute to one of our brothers who is now in the chapter eternal, a brother named Glenn Mahan, who came to East Texas State to play football and basketball. We became very good friends. We played basketball in the field house a lot, and he had no interest in fraternities, but we became close friends, and he decided to pledge Sigma Chi and became a great member. And the thing I remember most about Glenn was he was just always so outgoing, just a great guy to be around, and just a tremendous athlete. He played basketball and track at ET, was an All-American track star, was on the All-SIG team as a track star, a 7-foot high jumper, won the NAIA National Championship as an undergraduate of East Texas, and was named to the All-SIG team. Just quite a guy. Our chapter was much better off for having him as a member.
I'm Lanny Joe Burnett, and I was honored to be a member of the very first pledge class of Zeta Eta Sigma Chi at East Texas State College, Commerce, Texas. But I was even prouder to be a member of the second pledge class of Zeta Eta. And you may not understand this, but it took me a little while to get it. And during that second semester, I began to realize what an outstanding fraternity Sigma Chi is. Several of us had gotten together, and we were what you call suicides. We didn't accept bids from anybody from Sigma Chi. We hoped and prayed that they would give us one, and they did. And it's a thing that changed my life. I met a wonderful group of guys at East Texas State. But the thing that meant the most to me about them is that I got to see them grow into really quality men. We've been friends for a long time, this group, and anytime I would run into difficulties, they were always there for me. This is something that I'd never had, not even with my high school friends, people I'd met in the business world later. Sigma Chi's are some of the best people that I've ever met. And this group from Zeta Eta is one of the main reasons that I'm proud to be a Sig. One of the guys that I had met at Commerce became my roommate in the Sigma Chi house. He was a tennis player, an extremely handsome guy, which was fitting for him to be my roommate. His name was Fred Fanning, and we had a lot of wonderful times together. Fred was an interesting guy. He was a member of the Episcopal religion, the first Episcopalian I'd ever met, and a wonderful guy. I remember that Fred was teaching school. He had a wife and child, and was drafted and sent to Vietnam. We corresponded, and I began to get letters from Fred saying that he'd been on a lot of patrols and he was tired. Never could seem to get enough rest over there. And then the news came that Fred would be coming back, but not the way we had hoped. Fred, I believe, was the first of our group to go into Chapter Eternal. We had his service at St. Andrews in Grand Prairie, where he'd been a member and an altar boy, grown up in that church. And St. Andrews was never locked. But his wife wanted Fred to be in the church, so the Zeta Eta Sigma Chi's got together and mounted a 24-hour honor guard. There was someone with Fred for the whole time until the service. And I remember being in there late at night with the candles flickering, and I'd see his wife come in to pray, and it reminded me of how closely Fred's Christian beliefs meshed with the ideals and purposes of Sigma Chi. Fred's letters continued to come to me after his funeral. I think I got 4 letters after his death. And the last one, there was a wonderful picture of Fred sitting on an ammunition box. He was just as handsome as he'd been in college, and he was holding a small puppy in his arms. And that's the memory I have of him. And one of these days, I plan to see him when we go to Chapter Eternal, and I'm going to go through the pearly gates wearing the white cross.
How about for the good of Zeta?
Okay. Zeta Eta was an interesting fraternity to me from the very beginning. It was different. It was different from any group that I'd ever been involved in. I learned the meaning of brotherhood from the members of Zeta Eta. I learned about compassion. I learned about caring. I learned about drinking. I was a quick study. And I learned about why Sigma Chi has the largest active alumni system of any fraternity in the world. I saw this in the Brothers of Zeta Eta. I saw it in the way everyone stayed in contact with each other. And if you failed to contact one of your brothers of this group, they'd be calling you, wanting to know if you were okay, if everything was going well. I like to say that these reunions we have are just the people that we were close to and the people we liked. But more and more I'm reminded of the fact that if you're Sigma Chi, I'm going to like you because I know what you stand for. And Zeta Eta has taught me that and continues to teach young men that today.
So I really had no reference or predetermined ideas of what college life was going to be, much less being in a fraternity. So in 1964, I went through Rush, and I was fortunate enough to pledge Sigma Chi. And the overwhelming thing that made me interested in Sigma Chi was John Wayne. I'd always, growing up as a kid, John Wayne was a hero idol of so many people. And so didn't know what to expect, didn't know what really pledgeship was even like, much less being a SIG or being an initiated member. I liked pledgeship so much that I went through it 3 times in 2 years. It was a great experience. You cannot bond any closer or faster than with a pledge brother. The first time through, I was the pledge class president, so the leadership was a little lacking there on scholarship, but we had a really good time. We went to Burns Run in Texhoma, and we rode the Ferris wheel, we rode the kiddie cars, but all this was about 2 in the morning. So we didn't have a lot of lighting, but we had a whole lot of fun, and there was no tickets to take up. The second time through, I even got more enamored with the joys of being a pledge. It was a great experience seeing members that really liked you even more the second time around and gave you more opportunity to show your wares. I had to lay out a semester and lived in the house. Then the third time as a pledge, I finally figured out, this is probably not going to last forever, so I should get initiated. So by this time, it was I got initiated in October of 1966, badge number 141, and a lot of the guys that were in the initiation were pledge brothers of mine. It was really a great experience and an opportunity that I don't think I'll ever forget. I was just listening to Nick Joy a while ago, and he was mentioning some of the bonds that you have. There is no way that you can replace the opportunity as a youth to know guys as well and have the opportunity to have them share things with you that no one else is going to share with you in life. The Cheney truck got to be one of our home away from homes. We were endeared with the opportunity to be in the dark, but we got to see the light sooner or later. Didn't realize until I was a second time pledge that there were as many brands of beer cans as there are in Oklahoma, but we fast found out there's over 100. Didn't realize until we got up there that the cow chips are not always indicative of the breed of the cow, but as long as they look different, there's a member back at the house that's going to say, yeah, that's a different one. So the gathering of cow chips and beer cans, it really enlightens you a lot. And one of my Pledge Brothers was Ernie Paul Pewitt. Well, Ernie Paul was doing AI for dairy cattle over in Sulphur Springs, so he was always needing somebody to come help him wrangle milk cows. So that was a real opportunity to earn $10. But to earn $10, you really got to see both ends of the cow. And that will further your enlightenment in college also. I got married in June of 1966 before I was ever initiated. I was a pledge before I ever met my wife, and we were engaged for probably 20 months. So she got to see the pledge class in a different light, and she got to see a short-time member because I was only a member for probably a year on campus. But Sigma Chi is a situation that you cannot enlighten anyone to. It has to be a personal experience. It has to be something that allows the indwelling of love for guys and the Lord. I am active, become active recently with the alumni chapter in Dallas, and it's just a renewing of guys that are really indwelled with Sigma Chi and understand it. I'm a life loyal. I became a life loyal a few years after I got out of school, and my life loyal number is 12955. Not being the brightest guy that's ever going to be under this light, those are things that stick in my mind. I spent 36 years as a pawnbroker. Then I spent 5 years as a salesman in Highland Park Village for Beretta Firearms. Really got to see different situations, different lives of people. And some of the guys that I went through the college experience with that have passed and gone to the chapter eternal, Fred Fanning and I were very close. He was very close, played tennis with Bill Crabtree, and Bill just recently passed away. And those are two guys, Fred leaving Trish with one little one and another one coming, that touched Julia and I very much. Julia was a sorority sister of Trish's. George and Ree Parks lived across the hall from us when we were in the married dorms. George pinned me with his jewel pin when I was initiated about October the 16th of '66. Really deep friendships. Michael Bearden, there's just a bunch of guys that I wish they could be here today. And if this is any influence on a guy that's looking or a prospective a member of Sigma Chi, look deep, guys, because you won't find anything that has more quality, more resilience, and more alumni members that have lasted through the years and still love their chapter, love their fraternity. So if you have an opportunity, check into Sigma Chi very deeply, and it'll be a rich experience for you. And I hope that I can call you brother someday.
Kind of kick around how we got this all started, and it's a good story. Basically, we had developed our own fraternity over at this old boy's house named Clyde Hake. And he said, you know, we need to start our own fraternity, which we did. And we called it Alpha Chi Alpha, the beginning and the end and the beginning. Then we had to address the Interfraternal Council to try to get accepted and to bring us on campus. Everybody at that time were national. The KAs used to be the Paragons. The Lambda Chi's used to be the Artemas. So everybody was national fraternity. So we tried to get in as a local social fraternity, and they turned us down. Not once, but maybe 2 or 3 times. And there was a guy on that fraternity, I'll never forget his name, was Douglas Yates from Texarkana. He had been in the Air Force, and he got $105 a month. So you always wanted to get with Douglas at the end of the month, because that meant beer. But anyway, I told old Douglas, I said, let me tell you something. If y'all don't approve us on this next meeting, I'm going to whip everybody's ass in that Interfraternal Council. Lo and behold, we get accepted. And we go Alpha Chi Alpha in all the athletic events and all the everything, and win them all. Archery included, and whatever it was. We had a great fraternity, and we had about probably 50, 60 guys. We were meeting on Monday nights just like the rest of the fraternities in an old building over in the English building. And basically we wanted to get us a national charter with somebody. So I'll never forget, I'm up in front and I said, okay, who do we want to petition? SAE, so-and-so, so-and-so. Old Joe Keeleyhart was sitting way back in the back, probably smoking. And he said, how about Sigma Chi? He said, my mother always liked that song. So I put it on the chalkboard. And we had about 5 or 6 names up there. And it came time to vote, show of hands. Okay, all in favor. And so we, Sigma Chi, and that got the majority of the votes. So that's what we said we'd do. So the next day would have been a Tuesday. I picked up the phone and I called. Now bear in mind, we didn't have anything but money that we had raised from beer bust and things like that. And we were charging, I think, if I'm not mistaken, $10 a month. But anyway, we called Sigma Chi's in Evanston, Illinois. Never forget, I think the main man, he was an older fella, and he answered, and I told him, what we were trying to do. And he said, well, let me tell you what you need to do. He said, we need to send some people down there to see how y'all are and who you are and this, that, and the other. So they sent the TCU chapter over. And we shook hands and had fun, and then we said, why don't y'all come back and we'll have a little party. So we rent the Armory in Greenville, had a big dance and girls and all that stuff, and shook hands with them, hugged their necks, and I guess they gave us a great recommendation because the old man called me. And he said, Lloyd, here's what I want you to do. He said, I want you to go on campus and I want you to find the best guys you can find and put them in Alpha Chi Alpha. And I said, without pledgeship? He said, no pledgeship, just put them in and get them going so we can come down there in whatever it was going to be, 4 or 5 months, and initiate you guys. So we went on campus, and of course we knew the best guys then, and I went out and I got Whitener, Mandina, and Marion Turner, and some guys, they not very active, but Mandina and Whitener, but got them in. And then in about, I guess it was 4 or 5 months, here comes the Sigma Chi's. And we do it over at the dorm, over at the house. And they initiate everybody, and that's how it just about all got started. But it was a great trip. And of course, I made it a lot shorter than what it actually was. But that's what I remember, and that's what I, think about when I think about Sigma Chi. And we had the secretary and the treasurer was Benny Longacre, bless his heart. He's passed away. He's a great guy. And we liked old Benny. Benny was kind of played it by the cuff.
Lloyd, if you had advice to give for the good of Zeta Eta and Sigma Chi, what would it be?
Oh, I'd say if you had the opportunity to get in the fraternity and do a little bit more, spend a little bit more toward the fraternity than I did. I hate to even say that to really get close and understand it and help all the young guys out. Yeah, I'd highly recommend that.
Awesome.
Well, and really and truly, it was a lot of fun getting that thing started and how it all worked out. But
Tell them how you got the $500.
well, that was something else. The guy from Sigma Chi told me, he said, Lloyd, he said, y'all need the $500. You mail that in with, your forms and everything. I said, $500? I said, that's like $5 million. So we had beer bust and raised it, and everybody chipped in till we came up with the 500. And Benny Longacre said, well, I think we've got another 200 in the treasure. I said, get it out, because we got to have it. So we sent them a check for $500. And it was kind of funny. I went to the bank. There was a lady that worked at the bank, and her name was Mrs. Hogue. And that's Genevieve's mama, and Verta Kathleen is married to Don Turner. It was his mother. She worked in the bank. I said, Miss Hogue, we're going to have a check come running through here for $500. I said, we're going to make good on it. She said, okay, Lord. So anyway, she was very kind, and when it came through, she chipped her own like we had it. And I'm sure we did, But it was a great experience to to be able to do something like that. And those Sigma Chi's, the old men that came down, I mean, there wasn't one that wasn't probably 75, maybe a little older. And buddy, you talking about knowing and doing and getting it done, they did. And enjoyed those guys. But very helpful. And the TCU chapter was just great. I don't know if we get affiliated with those guys anymore, but they were good guys. Enjoyed them.
My name is Mark Ward, and I was initiated in 1966, the spring of '66. I was proconsul. I was consul in 1967. I left ET in 1967 and went to Sam Houston State, where I graduated. Went to law school at U of H. Graduated from there in 1973, I'm sorry. And I was district attorney of Walker County from 1975 to 1982. I had a horrible car accident in 1982. I couldn't run again. I went to Galveston and practiced law until I quit in 1995. Sigma Chi was the reason that I've gone this far. Without the brotherhood and the friendships that'll last forever, I would have never made it. It changed my life. And I would suggest to any new members or pledges that they do everything they can to keep Sigma Chi in their heart forever. Thank you.
My name is Mike Mullins. I was initiated in 1968 at Zeta Eta chapter. I want to tell a story about a couple of our brothers in my pledge class and what we did with James Adderholt and Dick Dawson. Johnny Conroy in those days was our magister, our pledge trainer. So we decided that we were going to take a couple of actives on a walk. And we took James Adderholt and Dick Dawson on a walk, and we took them way out, God only knows where. It must have been 30 miles away. As I recall, we put Dick in the back of Ken Horton's car. Maybe it was in his trunk. And we took him way out in the middle of nowhere, dropped him off on the side of the road. We put molasses and maybe it was cornflakes. I don't remember. I'm sure Brother Dawson can tell you all the gory details. That's been 40 years or more, 45 years ago, I suppose. Anyway, we dumped molasses on them and abused them pretty well. And we thought it was really clever and funny and had a good time. And I think we may have drunk a beer or two. I don't remember now. I don't think we drank much beer in those days, but now you know I'm lying. But we dropped them off on the side of the highway, and so we kind of partied all the way back. I think I rode back with Conroy and his Mustang. I think Johnny had a Mustang in those days, a little, maybe it was a 65 or 66 Mustang. And I rode back in Johnny's car. And when we got back to the fraternity house, our house was on campus in those days, we walked into the living room, and if I remember correctly, Dawson and Adderholt were waiting for us. They actually got back before we did. It was a pretty interesting 2 or 3 days. I think we had Hell Week. Every time we saw Dawson, we had to do something. But we did give him a plaque. We did give Brother Dick a plaque about being the best active. I joined, pledged Sigma Chi, and primarily because I knew a lot of the people, a lot of the guys in the fraternity. And, you know, one of the main reasons why you pledge a fraternity at that level, before you really know much about the history of the fraternity or the Norman Shield or any of the other things that go along with your pledgeship, you really pledge it because of the guys that you know and you meet and you like. And you get acquainted with them and you really grow to enjoy their company and like them. And we had a good time in my pledgeship. We had a great bunch of guys, had a lot of fun. Some of us made our grades. Some of us had a more difficult time than others. But it was a great day to be a Sigma Chi at Zeta Eta chapter, and I would recommend it to any of the younger guys who are coming along that are thinking about pledging a fraternity. I trust that they would take a good long look at Zeta Eta first.
My name is Nick Joy. I pledged Sigma Chi in 1963 at East Texas State College at that time, and then it turned into East Texas State University. I was one of the first pledge classes. First of all, I totally loved the experience of being at East Texas, but when I pledged, I wasn't exactly sure. I knew my father and my brother had been in fraternities when they were in college, so I was looking forward to the experience. And I knew there were several different fraternities, but I went to a lot of the different parties that they had and rush parties. But there was something, I guess, when I met a lot of the, at that time, brothers and pledges to be, there was something that clicked. And I really didn't look at the other fraternities that hard after that one or two meetings that we had, and it was almost like, you hate to say instant love, but it was. It was something that it's hard to explain, but it was something that I knew that was going to be part of my experience at college, and it was. And it was something that, it's like I said, it's hard to tell other people if they're going into it, but I would not trade what I went through as a pledge, even though there might have been a few things that were not as agreeable as you would like at the time, but I would never trade the friendships and the experience that I had as a pledge, and then of course after I was initiated. And it's lasted not just in my college days, but throughout my life. And something I think that a lot of people don't even think about when they're in college, when they're in a fraternity, it is for life. And one thing that it's meant more to me, I would say, in the past, 15, let's say almost 20 years. I know that I always had friends that I could count on, that when anything, it might be terrible things going on, but I always had a friendship or people that I could turn to in any situation. And it is that way today, and it was that way when I was in college. And that was my experience. And as far as members that have passed away, there are a number of members that have passed away. And I know that probably people have mentioned Freddie Fanning and Bill Crabtree, Rob Holton. But there's one guy, George Parks, that was a personal friend of mine. He lived in Corpus Christi, and at the time that I was in college, I lived in Brownsville. I got to Texas, and I got to know him because we traveled together. He was a very quiet person, but he was probably one of the most wonderful guys that I knew. Didn't say too much, but we had quite a friendship together. And I just wanted to mention his name because he was a special person to me.
My name is Randy Stansbury, and I was in the first pledge class of Sigma Chi back in 1963. and was such a great experience because not only did I make some lifelong friends, but friends in college that we used to hang out with and share experiences. And beyond all the fun and exciting things that were going on with the fraternity and with Sigma Chi, is that there was always a sense of responsibility. And I think more than anything else I can say about Sigma Chi is that I learned how to conduct myself as a responsible gentleman, if you will. And now everybody won't necessarily agree with that, but I had the basis of that relationship through the fraternity. So other experiences was a lot of fun, and I certainly enjoyed it. I enjoy this reunion that we get together once a year, and I understand that we're having our 50th Zeta Eta reunion this fall, and I so look forward to that, you know. So the bond that was formed there, I will tell you that all the brothers in Sigma Chi treated one another with a high regard of respect, which I found important. You may not necessarily agree with their position on an issue, but it was you learn to respect their position, and they learn to respect yours. And I think that's a foundation that that Sigma Chi put into place, not necessarily by design, okay, but it was just, you know, it was kind of a communication that's the way things ought to be in general, you know. If you're trying to do the right thing and be an effective listener, okay, which I think in life, you know, to do that, you're going to be somewhat successful, you know. Listening skills are probably as or more important than any other skill that you have in life. So that's pretty much it. It's just that I've enjoyed the relationship and still enjoy the relationships with a lot of the brothers that I formed in Sigma Chi.
Today's events are tomorrow's memory, and I think if you're a prospective pledge or a member, live for today, because what you will have is great memories for tomorrow. But try and really understand the Norman Shield, the creed, and I think you can take that through all your life. It gives me the greatest joy to know that I am a Sigma Chi versus was a Sigma Chi, and I have the opportunity to see my fellow brothers in the 50th anniversary. I wish you well and Godspeed.
I came into the fraternity right after it had been decided that the charter would be granted. It was a long ordeal, a long process to get the charter. You had to go through several visitations by the national officers, and Lloyd Pate and some of the older Sigma Chi's were really on that. You know, there was an interview among the chapter members. What should we go? Should we go Sigma Chi, Kappa Sig, SAE, all that sort of thing? And I think Joe Keelihar is the one that said, "My mama sure does like that song." You know, Sweetheart of Sigma Chi. And Dudley Hess had pledged Sigma Chi at Texas and was influential in deciding to go Sigma Chi. The charter process was a long, drawn-out thing. It took us about 2 years to go through the visitations and to get the proper amount of money together. And, you know, if we had enough money, we usually bought a keg instead of thinking about chartering a fraternity. But you had to have a $500 chartering fee and had to do some other things that were expensive and had to go to workshop before. So I got to attend workshop the summer before we were chartered that fall. But I think one of the interesting things that happened during initiation week was the fact that Kennedy was assassinated that week. Big dilemma. Do we put off the initiation? Do we wait? What do we do? And the national officer said, we're here to initiate these guys. And so they went ahead with the initiation and granted us a charter then in November. So it was quite a week because of Kennedy assassination, a lot of emotion, getting the charter and not knowing what you're faced with, going through initiation and all those things. And national press, you know, was hitting I mean, everything in the television was about the assassination. You go in the student center, it's packed with students watching the one television that they had in the student center at that time. And I remember I was coming from basketball practice and walked across the street from the current gym over to the student center when I heard about the assassination. Everybody remembers where they were. All of us remember because we were right in the middle of initiation that week. And so it was quite a week for us. It was a tough time in our lives because we were sending guys to Vietnam, we were getting out of school and trying to avoid the draft if we could, and had the lottery, and many of us got drafted, and Jack Cross and Gary Studdard went to the Air Force. They were part of the Air Force ROTC program, and Jack's going to be on later and can speak to that more. But it was a difficult time in college because we were all kind of hustling around, figuring out, are we going to NAM? Are we not? What's coming up? But we had several things happen that week. You know, we were supposed to be silent and weren't supposed to have dates. And a couple of our brothers snuck off and got caught in the bushes with a girl, and we didn't know whether they were going to get initiated or not. But they did. For the good of Zeta Eta and Sigma Chi, you know, we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. And I think if anything I could say for the good of Zeta, it would be to the undergraduates that are there now and have recently graduated. If you will live your life according to the high ideals of the fraternity, you'll set a damn fine example for the rest of the world.
My name is Scoot Cheney. If I told you my real name, nobody would know what that was. I've been Scoot for 68 years and I can't shake it, so I live with it. Born and raised in Commerce. Never was a big enough boy to get out of Commerce. I'm still there. But anytime that I can get a chance, I like to talk about my beautiful wife, who died in 2000. She was a sweetheart of Sigma Chi. And of course, in my opinion, the most beautiful, talented one to ever come through there. So I always like to throw her name out there in her memory. I'm still in Commerce, still have business, quite a few businesses in Commerce. And so the pledges, I'm easy to find, you know, signing the book. So here they come, each pledge class. And I enjoy explaining to them what Sigma Chi has meant to me over the last 50 years. So in my office, I have a and I think it's like the first pledge class and some Alpha Chi Alphas, but there must be 70 guys sitting there out in front of the fraternity house in coats and ties, and these guys these days, they're surely not coming in coats and ties, I can tell you that. But anyway, they're just amazed. I tell them that's our first pledge class. There must be 70 guys there, you know, and they've just pledged 8, and they're just tickled to death. Yeah. I said, well, this is my pledge class here, and they just can't believe it. But I enjoy them coming by, and then I ask them to come by after they get initiated and talk to me again, and a number of them have. I remember these guys when they came by. I'm just so proud that I made the choice of Sigma Chi.
It's helped me grow a lot professionally and you know, socially. I was a pretty wild kid back in some times, but I really would recommend people taking a long look at it and learning about it before you get in it. It's really a neat deal. I mean, I'm 65 now, and I'm back here with the same guys that I went to school with. And that has meant a lot to me over the years. I would like to say something kind of not quite so serious. There's a pledged brother of mine, John McClellan. Another pledged brother of mine, Sam Sherrari, gave him the nickname of Low Pockets. One day his pants were kind of low down, and that's kind of stuck with him. Low Pockets McClellan. Anyway, John and I roomed together in the Sigma Chi house there in Commerce, and he and I would always get dates. People would get us dates. I don't know, we seemed to have trouble getting dates, and one time there was this real cute little Gamma Phi, and they got John a date with her. But the only thing was, she was real cute, real smart. She only had one arm. But, and John found out about it before he had to go on the date, and from then on he said, listen guys, I'm making a rule. From now on, the rules before I go on blind dates are they gotta have 2 arms, 2 legs, and they gotta be breathing. So from then on, that was his rules. Anyway, I love Sigma Chi, I love the guys in it. If you wanna be a part of it, you know, do it.
My name is Chester McCrary. I was initiated into Sigma Chi in November of 1963. I was a member of the Alpha Chi Alpha group, and the general fraternity does things right. They brought in the Alpha team to initiate us. There was about 45 of us, and I realized then that I had joined a truly wonderful fraternity. I was inspired by the values, the Christian values, the wholesome standards that Sigma Chi stands for. And it became apparent to me that we had a very responsible position to take up. They had shown us what a great initiation was. They had shown us who we needed to be, and we had to live up to that for the next coming group. As a result of that, we set high standards for ourselves, and we didn't want to admit anybody into our chapter unless they were someone that truly would carry on this tradition. And the takeaway from what I'm going to talk about is the bonds of Sigma Chi and what it has meant to so many of us, and there's over 1,000 of us now. As soon as I got out of college and I finished graduate school, and I had an opportunity to serve the fraternity as a Grand Prix. So I was responsible for Texas Tech, I was responsible for TCU and SMU and East Texas and so forth. And then I got to travel to grand chapters, and I got to travel to workshops. And I've recently been to a workshop, even after being a Sigma Chi for 49 years and 4 months. It was a wonderful experience, just like it was the first time. And I think then that's when I realized that I had joined something that was bigger, greater than I even realized. I knew it was more wonderful than I am. I knew it was something that was going to be a star of credit to my life. I think that in looking back, this weekend we've got about 55 or 60 of us that are going to be here, and these are true friends for life, and that's a rare opportunity. What we've got here is something that's not a 4-year experience. It's something that we all look to with fondness, knowing that we respect Sigma Chi for what I said a while ago. It's the goals that Sigma Chi set out for us, the standards, the values. And if you want to be proud of your friends, you want them to be Sigma Chi's. You want to encourage people to be Sigma Chi's because you want them to share and enjoy what you've enjoyed. Had rich friends that were not able to be with us tonight, and I miss them dearly. And I think about, gosh, we're having a 50th anniversary coming up, and I wish they could be there for us. There's a lot of us that are here for this reunion, and they're looking forward to November thinking, we're going to be, can you believe it? We're going to be Sigma Chi's for 50 years. That is a wow. And I'm proud to be a part of that, and I'm proud of my wonderful group of friends that I say are friends for life.
Well, I went to East Texas not knowing what college was all about, and quite frankly was on my way home one weekend thinking about staying home, and a fellow by the name of Don Huff invited me to a rush party, and I said, well, I think I'll stay this weekend and go. And the rest is pretty much history. I didn't go home too much after that. Just had a lot of fun. Sigma Chi taught us how to have fun, but we had to make our grades too. And so I really owe Sigma Chi my college degree. If it hadn't been for that time, I probably would not have stayed at East Texas. I went to East Texas kind of by mistake, but had a great experience, and Sigma Chi made it rich for many, many years. A lot of good memories. I was the first Magister of our chapter. I think my number was 23. I'm not sure about that. If Fred Landry tells you any different, I sit next to Fred, so he'll remember for sure if he's been in or comes in. But it was just a great time, made a lot of good friendships. Pledge class got the idea of us all taking a course in etiquette, so I learned which spoon to use and which one to drop and which one not to drop. So we just had a great time, and fortunate to Sigma Chi. I have to credit them to a lot of my business success and being able to stick with things and get through it. So, great times.
My name is Dick Dawson. I was initiated into the Zeta Eta chapter of Sigma Chi in the fall of 1965. I came to Commerce, Texas, when my mom and dad put me on a bus in Philadelphia, and I headed off to college. Interesting thing, on the way down through Tennessee, there was a young man on there that tried to convince me to ditch East Texas State University or East Texas State College and join him at a local Tennessee college. Well, I did not do that, and I'm so proud that I didn't, so happy that I didn't. But the Greyhound bus would only get me as far as Greenville, Texas. And we stopped underneath that banner that said, "The blackest land, the whitest people." And I pulled my luggage down to the Trailways bus stop, and we went over to Commerce. From Commerce, I caught a cab out to the university, and my assignment was in G4. And the first guy I met was Bill Crabtree. Bill is, as you know, or will know if you ask about him, was a friendly guy that would make friends, and he had a long list of friends. And he's very, very helpful and very, very considerate and protective of Sigma Chi. Well, he marked me, and I joined the fraternity because I thought that would be much better than moving. And so I'm glad I did. I want to speak about one of my initiate brothers, George Carricker Rowland. We called him Baby George. George was from Dallas. He was, his parents were gasoline distributors, and George would took a serious aspect toward Zeta Eta also. He was a Magister of the chapter, pledge trainer. He passed away a number of years ago, sorry to see, and I attended his White Rose ceremony. But two brothers I just mentioned, Bill Crabtree and George Rowland, have joined the Chapter Eternal, and we miss them. Thank you.
It sort of was expected of us to pledge Lambda Chi, and we got out there that fall of '61, started going through Rush, meeting a lot of the guys, a lot of the Alpha Chi Alpha guys at the time, and several of us just started thinking, you know, just because all of our buddies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than us had always gone Lambda Chi, that there was no obligation that we do that. And so as a result, a lot of us kind of bolted and went Alpha Chi, and the people that expected us to be there, I remember a bunch of the names of the Lambda Chi guys. Gail Foster was the president, I think. Some of my friends in commerce today that are 5 or 6 years older than me. John Kenny Smith, my brother-in-law Merle Hogue, just a number of people were all Lambda Chi's. And right at first, I think they were disappointed in us, and perhaps some of them, you know, really kind of resented the fact that we didn't follow suit and go Lambda Chi, but we decided we're going to do what we want to do. We were comfortable with what we assumed was going to be our pledge class. We were comfortable with the guys that were already there with Alpha Chi Alpha. Lloyd was there, Tony Mandina was there, or at least they had gone shortly before that, and I'd already met all of those guys. So we just decided, what the heck, we're going to do what we feel makes us comfortable. We're going to be with a group that we feel comfortable with. We're going to be with a group that we feel somewhat of a kindred spirit with. And prior to everybody electing where they were going, they were telling us things like, Alpha Chi Alpha will never go national. If they do go national, they'll get some rinky-dink fraternity and all that type of thing. But we stuck with our guns. Went Alpha Chi Alpha, and not very long thereafter, we started hearing rumors of what we were looking forward to in the way of a national affiliation. And I didn't know a lot about fraternities. Most of those names, Greek letters and things, I didn't know what they were. Most of us probably didn't at that time, but we had heard of Sigma Chi. And when we realized that that's where we were going, we were elated. We hadn't, you know, second guessed ourselves up to that time. We were happy with where we were. We had a real good intramural year. We had some good athletes there. We had some guys that had been pretty good athletes in high school, and we were doing good things. I mean, we were stepping right in there, competing against the fraternities that really had a foothold there. And I think everybody was totally pleased with the fact that we kind of broke the tradition from the commerce guys. And I think what we did really was set a new tradition, because there's been a lot of guys after us from commerce that it wasn't Lambda Chi anymore. I think most of them went Sigma Chi, you know, from Cheney's bunch. Gosh, tons of them. I can't even think of all the names. There's so many. As a matter of fact, I think it probably became a new tradition that the commerce guys, normally that went to East Texas State, went Sigma Chi rather than Lambda Chi. I graduated in '65. The experience was good. I got married early in my college career. I didn't get to spend as much time around the chapter house as I would have liked, but made some lifelong friends, and I think it was a positive experience all the way, and I've had no regrets. I think it's been really a positive influence in my life. Till this day, I still don't get to keep up with a lot of people as much as I would like. I want to thank Chester for that. Chester keeps me informed, as well as a lot of other people, of what's going on, where everybody is, what they're up to, and that's very much appreciated. And I could just say that I'm looking forward to this event today, to seeing some people I hadn't seen in a long time, and that's all I know.
Hi, I'm Eddie Ray Haggard. I was initiated in October 1964. I was a member of the first pledge class of Zeta Eta Sigma Chi. Myself and 26 of my pledge brothers pledged. 7 made their grades. We called them the Magnificent Seven. So what happened to the other 20? We were called Twilighters. So we were around, and all we did was study. We could go to the parties and this and that and the other. And we could participate, but yet you were a part of the fraternity, but yet you were not. You did not belong to the pledge class, and you were not an active. So you were just sort of what they call a Twilighter. You were out there in between. And I think that's some of the biggest, strongest bonding that I think we ever had. The Twilighters, the actives would have their meetings on Monday night, and the pledge classes would have their meetings. Well, the Twilighters, we'd have our meetings and so forth, get together and do things. And so that's one of the strongest bonds. I mean, right now, if I had any kind of problem or needed anything, I could pick a telephone up, call any one of my pledge brothers, and I'm sure that they would, at a drop of a hat, they would be right there. What do you need, and how can I help you? That is something I cannot say about other organizations and so forth that I've worked with and worked for and been a member of. And I'm very proud to have been picked by Sigma Chi and offered a invitation to join Sigma Chi. When I went through Rush, I think it was, I automatically knew who I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to get a bid from Sigma Chi. And I was delighted when I got the bid. But then after I got the bid, Fred Landry said, well, you know, what reason you got the bid? Well, Harry Haggard is our president, and Eddie Ray Stanley is another active member. And all we saw was Eddie Ray Haggard. So you automatically got a bid. That's the only way you got a bid to get in here. So I guess I got the luck of the draw by name more than anything else. And I guess I'm very active right now in the Houston Sigma Chi Alumni Association. I'm active a lot. I go to all the meetings the first Tuesday of every month. And it means a whole lot to me to be able to see the brothers in the chapter. It's not a large meeting. We run about 25 to 30 people every meeting. But it has been a great storytell for me. I really enjoy it every step of the way. Thank you.
I was in the last pledge class of the local fraternity, Alpha Chi Alpha. And, you know, I have a story. I travel in my business frequently. I'm an international traveler. And usually I wear the Life Loyal Sig lapel pin, and also I have the Greek letters on my ring. And wherever I go and I meet another Sigma Chi, it's immediately a bond, and there's something that's special there. And although we might chat for just a moment, where is he from? It doesn't make any difference. UCLA, New York University, Missouri, Arizona State, University of Texas. There's a common bond, and it always will be. My only son is a Sigma Chi. So is my son-in-law. And we're in business together. My biological brother is a Sigma Chi. My best friend is a Sig. So is his son, and so is his son-in-law. I'd like to see someone top that. I love Sigma Chi. I've always been enthusiastic. I've been, since our initiation, by the way, the chapter was installed the weekend that Kennedy was assassinated, okay? And I've been a Sigma Chi for 49 years and 5 months, and I have a long, long way to go. you need to take a close look at us, guys. Thank you.
My name is Ernest Paul Pewitt. I came to East Texas in August of 65, and I came with the intentions of pledging Sigma Chi. I'd been at TCU the year before in a program that did not allow to enter a fraternity, but I had been coaxed or been taught to love Sigma Chi by those particular people at TCU. And one of the reasons that I went to East Texas was to become a Sigma Chi. I was fortunate enough to get a bid, became a pledge. It only lasted about 12, 14 months until I was finally initiated. One of the funniest things I ever did, and never did really tell anybody about it, but I took 2 classes at the same period one time, and I had a girl that would, friend of mine, that would answer the roll for me in one class, and on the day of the final, both of the finals were at the same time, and I took one final and was not in very clean clothes, and went to Dr. Claus, who was teaching the second class, and explained to him that I had a flat on the way to school, and he called me Mr. Pewitt. He never did know my name. And he said, well, Mr. Pewitt said that would be just fine. Said, you just come right in here and sit right here, Mr. Pewitt. And I said, I know you'll do well on this test. I think he knew I'd do well on the test because he was tired of having me in his class. But finally got out and got initiated. I was very happy to be a Sigma Chi at East Texas, and the longer I'm out, the more I love it.
Do you have a brother that's in the chapter Eternal that you want to
Yeah, Ronnie Wilson was he was just Mr. Everything at East Texas for a long time. I mean, I think he held the record of staying at the school longer than anybody. I believe it was like 9 years. He's a real bright guy, but he just liked East Texas. He liked being at the chapter house and loved to play Pluckham. Was very instrumental in several people's lives. And then there was Mickey Benninghoven, who, if you ever remember the name, you'd never forget it. You know, it's just some of the things that he did and we did. Benninghoven was pretty rough on the pledges. He got the pledges to clean his car up very frequently, and at one time they got some rubbing compound and they cleaned and polished his car and rubbed all the paint off of it. But Benninghoven made a living bootlegging whiskey. He would, nobody can understand why he had so much money all the time, but he would drive to Dallas, get a load of whiskey, and take it, I believe, to Wolf City or someplace to a bootlegger up there. And nobody ever expected it until he finally confessed to it. Never got caught. And he was just, it was that kind of guy. He just never, ever quit entertaining.
Well, when I was at East Texas State, or Texas A&M Commerce now, back years ago, a bunch of us guys got together, and Lloyd Pape was one of them, Rob Whitener, and quite a few others. And we were all pretty much brothers at that time before we ever started Sigma Chi. I mean, we were pretty close, and we had a good bunch of guys. As a matter of fact, one other fraternity was trying to get us to join them. So, they weren't even on campus yet. So I don't really, till this day, don't know how that happened. But anyway, we started talking about Sigma Chi, and that was my first thing I wanted was Sigma Chi, and the reason, the song, Sweetheart of Sigma Chi. I had heard that on television and everywhere, you know, and I said, you know, I like that song and I like the group of people that it shows there, you know. But anyway, and when I started out, they were just beginning to get into that. I had never been initiated yet. So in the meantime, I go into the Marine Corps. And so I go into the Marine Corps, I stay in there like 3 years, and then when I get out, I come by. So actually, I probably would have been one of the first group, because I was in the group that we actually started it. Not just me and 2 or 3 other guys, but all the other guys involved. But I always liked it. Always glad we did that, because it really it stood up for a long time. I have a lot of friends that we talked to, and they're still around. One of us are still left. But it was a lot of fun, and brothers for life is what it is.
What does Sigma Chi mean to you?
Well, it's a brotherhood. I mean, to me, it's a brotherhood that you have guys that maybe you didn't have a brother growing up. Well, you got brothers now, and that's what it really means to me, because these guys they stood by me, and when I was in the Marine Corps, I got hurt, not in combat, but I got hurt, and these guys, I heard from them, and so it means a lot to me. It's something that I'll always remember, and I always think a lot of the guys, the quality of the people that were in here with us, and we're still hanging around. Well, Lloyd and Rob Whitener and I all were kind of in it together to begin with, and Lloyd and I especially, even before Rob, we got together, but. They've been real good. We've been real good friends all these years. I mean, I could call them and ask them to do anything for me, and they would do it. And that's just the kind of relationship it is. And it was kind of like the same thing in the Marine. It was like the Marine Corps relationship I had with guys in there that I've kept in touch with my whole life. So anyway, it's a great organization, and it's meant a lot to me.
Hello, I'm Bob Ferguson, initiated number 116 in 1966. I actually transferred from Texas Tech from my first year and came to East Texas. Well, being from the small town of Chillicothe, there were already 2 people in the chapter, and then my very best friend that I started out the first grade with, Horace Joe Tabor, was already there. So it was pretty well kind of decided that I was going to play at Sigma Chi if I got the chance. And so, unfortunately, I did get the chance. And after some struggles the first semester with grades, I kind of got the attitude that I had a very important goal to make my grades that second time, because I'm not sure that if you had the chance to do it a third time. So I made doubly sure, and probably matured a little bit along the way, that I made my grades. I think back then, if you didn't make your grades and you were kind of a second semester pledge, they called it being a twilighter, and I don't know if that's still the terminology or not, but I don't think I've done anything in my life more important than sticking it out and becoming a Sigma Chi. And it's just been a lifelong commitment for me. And I want to say that it was important in my undergraduate years, and we had fun, and it was a great group of guys, and it was just, it made your college career just rounded it out to be with guys that you felt something for and you had a common bond with, and like it said before, the Sigma Chi ideals are high, and it just means a lot. But I think at the age that I am now, and all those guys back from the 60s are, the thing it's probably gotten more important to me through the years. And a lot of our guys are grandparents now, or their kids are gone, and you kind of sit back and you're getting older, and I'll tell you, younger guys, the older you get, things start meaning a whole lot more each year. And then it's been mentioned about the brothers that we've seen go to Chapter Eternal, and you know, I think that's, you know, it's not something I worry about all the time, but, you know, you never know what the next year's going to be, because Brother Crabtree was here last year, and he's not this year. So it's, like I say, it's very important. And 5 years ago, we had our 45th reunion in Dallas, out in Plano. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was a great gathering. A lot of guys, and I mean, it's amazing to me that I'm 116 and we are over 1,000, I guess. So I mean, it's just, it's kind of mind-boggling to me to think that that much time has passed. But anyway, when I was driving home from the 45th, and I just got to thinking, I thought, man, there was a lot of our guys there. It was really neat. And I thought, you know, there ought to be a way to get our group of guys together every year. And so I talked to Frank Barnett and to Chester McQuarrie, and kind of had an idea that we were going to try to do something on an annual basis, or at least semi-annual basis. We started gathering names for emails, which nowadays communication's so easy. Putting one of these things together is really, it's not hard. And I would like to say that to the younger guys from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, get your group of guys together. Get an email list and start sending it out, and start a year ahead of time. And say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to meet at some good common place that's kind of convenient for everybody, so nobody's got to travel a long way. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to come and we're just going to have fun. We're going to talk about the old days. We're going to have a meal and just reminisce and enjoy each other. And this is our fourth meeting. We started out over at the Stockyards, and then now this is our third one here at the Worthington Hotel, and it's worked out great. But I would encourage everybody in each generation, I mean each 3 or 4, 5, 6 years, get together. I mean, don't wait as long as we did. I mean, we're in our 60s. I mean, we call ours the wrinkle butt or the Medicare crew. Don't wait that long, because it is so fun, and it keeps you together. So I just like to say that, I mean, Sigma Chi is a lifelong thing. I don't know of any other fraternities that actually do what we do. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, I've told some other Sigma Chi's that, and they say, you do what? Every year? And I say, yeah. They said, I think we're going to try that. A friend of mine from Sam Houston. And so anyway, it's very worth it. As far as guys that have gone to Chapter Eternal, Bill Crabtree was a very good friend, but a lot of them were, and we've lost way too many. I think about them a lot, and you know, it's just kind of like I wish they could be here with us, but they're right here, and that's all I'd like to say.
My name is Bill Gant from Paris, Texas. My introduction into Sigma Chi was totally different than a lot of people's, because I was really initiated late. I was in my 50s. I did not go to school at East Texas State University, but when I went to Commerce, I went into business, in the clothing business, downtown Commerce. All my friends and we got tied in, typically being in business, and then with the university there, East Texas State. I got tied in with all my friends with the college out there. I was really that age. I was a young business guy. So it seems like all the people that I was running with back in Commerce in those days was people like Lloyd Pate and Tony Mandino and Rob Whitener, Dennis Stanley, and they were all Sigma Chi's, you know, and I felt like I was such a part of them not to be a part of them, you know. So over the years being in business, of course, my contributing and participating, it became more and more and more, into the point of I even built some apartments there in Commerce called Gant Apartments, which some people have lived in. And, you know, I had all Sigma Chi's living in them. I mean, from Sinky and all the guys, so I knew them all. And so I went through a whole different age group with Whitener and Mandino and Pate and them. All of a sudden I got some younger guys like you guys. We had a good group over there, all the way from Bill Johnson, which you remember Bill and them. Every Thursday night was a Courtyard at Gann Apartments, you know what I mean? And really it was all about the Sigma Chi's and you know, 3 or 4 different sororities and stuff like that. So we had a really good group of guys living over, and I always felt a part of it, like I said, you know, because they were gathering in my spot all the time, and I was always helping them, and I didn't mind helping them. And I was still tied in, participating, contributing, but I still wasn't a member of it. And then in my 50s, Rob, I got a call from him one day and said, listen, I've sent a letter to the Sigma Chi's, and we'd like for you to be one of us. God, of course, I was flattered, you know. I was going, my gosh, man, I'm a little bit old. I don't know how, even though I get along with these guys, you know, and everything else, but I'm kind of going past. I feel a part of it, even though I wasn't a part of it. And so he said, well, just think about this, because this thing is okay, and we'd love for you to go through initiation, become one of us. And it was one of the greatest things in my life, because they were all my friends, you know. But anyway, I went through initiation and became part of a group of guys that I'd known for a long, long time. And it's been very influential for me, you know. And so I've enjoyed participating, having the brotherhood and the friendship which we had developed, and we carried it another step further. And I think it's been a great thing for me. It sure has. You know, when you're in college, if you can go in, of course, I was in the Army, and I came out, my life took a different direction than a lot of people's lives did. And then I come back to college and everything else. So I had really kind of matured sometimes to another level. You know what I'm saying, when I came back to college. But for a young guy coming in, he definitely ought to be a part of it. My son wasn't a Sigma Chi, he was a Sigma Nu at Arizona State. I asked him when he was out playing golf in Arizona State, so a lot of the golf team were Sigma Nu, so he got involved. But joining a fraternal organization ought to be one of the priorities that you ought to do. Because you meet the guys, you participate, you learn how to organize, do things, be productive in the community, contribute back. And I think that's what it's all about, you know what I mean? And working as a group. And you'll carry this on the rest of your life. My friendship with my guys have gone on. My guy, Paul Troy, we've been friends for 40-something years. And so this guy was a Sigma Chi years ago when I was in business and I met him. I was older than he was, you know. So it's one of those things that every young person ought to consider when they go to school, without a doubt. And Sigma Chi would be premier, without a doubt, for sure.
There's a lot of things I could say. I can go on for days and days. Everybody knows that about Sigma Chi, that it changed my life. You know, before I pledged, I thought I was a man. I thought I knew it all, because I don't know why, but I just thought that the person I was the strongest man. Thought I can go out and fight my way through anything. But once I pledged Sigma Chi, because of the guys I looked up to, it completely changed my life. Sitting at a point where we were during I Week, which was eye-opening for everybody, I know. But for me especially, it really, once I sat there with all those guys from EAD Fall 03, once I sat there with those guys and they looked at me and told me what they thought of me, it hit me hard. I mean, it still chokes me up now, thinking about it. Thinking about what I was and what I am now because of Sigma Chi. It completely changed my life. It made me a better man for just maybe looking at myself, because that's the biggest thing. Look at yourself and see, it makes you see what was wrong. It makes me strive to be better. It makes you strive for that white cross. There's a bunch of stories I'll probably tell at 50th. I can't tell now, but we'll all be telling stories. But speaking about somebody is DJ. He was younger than me. He went through later, but he loved Sigma Chi like all of us did. No matter what, I could call him, he was there in a second. Just like any other brothers. I can say that about all the brothers. I can call them, they're there. That's one of the biggest reasons I want to be a Sigma Chi, because I was there. There was times I needed them, and they were there. That's my biggest thing for looking at somebody, as if my biggest thing is my friends and my brothers. They're like family, no matter what. But Sigma Chi has given more than me than I can ever give back. But, I mean, it's given me, being a Sigma Chi through all the experiences, it's given me the love of my life. Besides her, Sigma Chi was my first love, and it shall be my last.
Some of the best stories that I have about Sigma Chi, I probably shouldn't tell on this video. I will say this, there was, we used to camp around the bonfire at homecoming every year. We would camp all week outside guarding the bonfire. I think it was supposed to be from the high school kids, but it was just one of those traditions that we did. And so this was in fall '03. I remember that because Ben Ride was a pledge at the time, and he makes sure everybody knows what pledge class he's from. But yeah, we sat out there one night just getting, having a few recreational beverages, a few recreational beers, and it was nice, slow build up. We didn't even see it coming. Next thing we know, there was an issue with another fraternity down the way, and there was 15 guys walking over to another camp, and then that camp was not really entertaining guests at the moment, so a ruckus ensued, and to this day they don't let them camp around the bonfire at homecoming, and that's probably mostly Ben Ride's fault. So just keep that in mind when homecoming comes around. You know who to blame. Really enjoyed my years at Zeta Eta. In the process, made friends that to this day I can call upon, and they'll be there for me if I need them. I want to mention brother DJ Reisinger. He entered Chapter Eternal just a couple years ago, and DJ was the only one from our generation that has gone, so far. And I hope it's a long time before we lose another one. DJ was truly, like we always make the joke, damn good brother, do anything for you. That's just something like you have to say that about a brother if you got nothing else to say. Damn good brother, do anything for you. But DJ Reisinger really was the type of brother that he would do anything in his power if it would help you out. You especially excelled in that when it came to pulling people out of the mud. That was kind of his forte, but just really anything. You needed help working on your truck, you needed help, just anything, and he was there for you. And it's a damn shame that he went as early as he did. All honor to his name.